Many people wonder what the path from being alone to eventually getting married actually looks like. At first, it feels scary, difficult, even impossible. You see happy couples around you and think, that could never be me. But here's the truth. Things don't fall into place overnight. Yet with time, patience, and the right mindset, they eventually do. That's why this video is not just a story, it's a complete guide. And like any proper guide, it's divided into clear segments. Each stage of the journey has its own lessons, challenges, and insights. For your convenience, you'll see timestamps on the screen so you can easily navigate to the parts that matter most to you, or watch the entire journey unfold from start to finish. From loneliness and self-doubt to long-distance relationships, to compromises, struggles, and finally marriage, this guide is built to show you the reality of how relationships grow, change, and solidify over time. By the end, I hope you'll see that no matter where you are right now, whether single, in the wrong relationship, or already moving toward commitment, you're not alone. There's a path forward, and this is how it looks.
Let's start with the stage that almost everyone goes through at some point: loneliness. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, "I'll never find anyone," or "maybe relationships just aren't for me," then you know how heavy this stage can feel. Loneliness plays tricks on your mind. It whispers that you're not attractive enough, not interesting enough, or simply not good enough for love. And the longer you stay in that loop, the more believable it becomes. I know this stage all too well. Back in school, I wasn't exactly the popular type. I wasn't the most attractive guy, and I definitely wasn't winning bodybuilding competitions. In fact, I was more of an outsider. And when you're in that position, it feels like the whole world is coupled up while you're just left out. But here's the truth. Chasing relationships just for the sake of not being alone never works. Yes, you might find someone, but more often than not, it won't be the right person. And instead of happiness, you end up with frustration, disappointment, and an even deeper sense of emptiness. The key realization here is this: being alone is not the same as being unworthy. Loneliness is not a permanent condition, it's a phase, and often is the foundation you need before something real can come into your life. So if you're in this stage right now, don't panic, don't rush. This is where you learn to be okay with yourself first, because relationships are not about filling a hole, they're about adding to a life that's already whole. Now let's talk about my first real relationship. And yes, it was a long-distance one. We met in the most random way possible, through an anonymous online chat. Back then, those things were still pretty popular. At first, everything felt like magic. We talked for hours, shared secrets, laughed at the same jokes. It was new, it was exciting. And for over 2 years, it actually worked. Or at least I thought it did. But here's the problem with long distance. After the excitement fades, reality kicks in. That 1,000 kilometers, or whatever the distance may be, becomes more than just a number. It's the wall between you and your partner. No physical presence, no small touches, no shared everyday life. And over time, that absence starts to hurt more than it inspires. Of course, long-distance relationships can work under certain conditions. If at least one of you can afford to travel regularly, say 2 or 3 times a year, then there's hope. Because those visits, those real moments together, become the glue that keeps things alive. But if you can't meet in person, then what you really have is more of a pen pal than a partner. And that's not sustainable in the long run. For me, that relationship eventually collapsed under the weight of distance. We both walked away with valuable lessons, though. On the positive side,
I learned what it felt like to truly connect with someone. On the negative side, I experienced my first breakup. And let me tell you, that one hits differently. After that, I found myself back in square one, single again, searching again. Only this time, there was a new condition on my list. The next relationship had to be close enough to touch. Because love from 1,000 kilometers away isn't really love, it's longing. And longing can break you down faster than loneliness ever could.
So here's the thing. After you go through your first breakup, something strange happens. You start to chase relationships just for the sake of not being alone. And trust me, I've been there. When I finally got into my second relationship, it felt like victory. I could finally say, "Look at me, I've got a girlfriend." It felt like proof that I wasn't broken, proof that I was worth something. And yes, in the beginning, it felt good. We had fun, we shared moments, I could walk into school or a party and feel like I was part of the game. But here's the reality check. When you're in a relationship just because you want to tick that box, sooner or later it's going to crack. Why? Because underneath the surface, you're not aligned. Maybe your personalities don't fully match, maybe your goals in life are miles apart, maybe your energy just doesn't click. And instead of feeling secure, you start feeling uncomfortable. That's exactly what happened to me. On paper, everything was fine, but in practice, it wasn't. Our tastes, our lifestyles, even our outlooks on the future, they just didn't match. And the worst part? When things fell apart, they didn't fall apart gracefully. No honest talk, no closure. It all ended with an argument over text. And if you're listening to this, let me just say, don't do that. Don't end relationships through a screen. No matter how awkward or painful it might be, have the courage to talk face to face. Ending things with a text isn't just cowardly. It leaves wounds that take way longer to heal. But here's the interesting twist. After that breakup, something shifted in me. The desperation to be in a relationship at any cost slowly faded. The constant chase stopped. And for the first time, I realized I could just live. Live for myself. Enjoy my time. Build my own path. And funny enough, that's when the magic happens. When you stop running after love like it's some kind of prize, you finally become open to the right kind of love. You stop clinging to anyone who shows you attention, and you start recognizing the people who actually fit into your life. And in my story, that's exactly what happened next.
And then it happens. Almost out of nowhere, when you finally stopped obsessing over finding someone, the right person walks into your life. And no, it doesn't feel like fireworks or a movie scene at first. It feels natural, effortless, like turning a page in a book and realizing that this chapter just makes sense. In my case, I had already reached that point of calm. I wasn't desperate anymore. I wasn't forcing anything. And then she appeared. Not as a savior, not as someone to complete me, but as a person who added depth to a life I was already building for myself. Here's what's different about this phase. You're not rushing. You're not trying to make things happen overnight. Instead, you're letting things unfold naturally. You meet, you talk, you laugh. You spend time together not because you're scared to lose them, but because you genuinely want to. You start introducing each other to your families and friends, not as a performance, but as a step toward blending your worlds. And for the first time, you feel what real connection is like. It's not about constant drama or proving to others that you're in a relationship. It's about quiet moments, coffee together, studying in the same room, walking and talking about dreams, fears, and plans. That's the foundation of something lasting. True relationships aren't built in a rush. They're built like this, brick by brick, with patience and care. And here's the thing, it feels almost like magic, but it isn't magic. It's trust, it's presence. It's the decision to show up every day for each other in small ways. But even in the middle of all this calm and happiness, there's something waiting around the corner. Something every couple faces sooner or later. The first clash of visions. The first, I want this, versus, but I want that. And that takes us to the next stage.
So here you are. The relationship feels stable, safe, even joyful. You've built something real. But then it happens. You start planning the future. And that's when the first cracks can appear. Not because the relationship is weak, but because you're two different people with two different visions. Maybe you're dreaming about moving abroad, chasing new opportunities in another country. But your partner? They want to stay close to family, close to their roots. Or maybe you've been working hard and you've set your sights on a sporty car, something flashy, something that represents your progress. But your partner? They'd rather have something practical, economical, a car that won't break the budget. Sound familiar? This is where many couples stumble, because the easy path is to dig in your heels, to insist on your way, to see every difference as a battle you have to win. But here's the truth. Relationships aren't built on winning arguments. They're built on finding balance. Compromise isn't about losing. It's not about sacrificing your dreams or settling for less. It's about weaving two visions into one future. That might mean finding a middle ground. Maybe not a Ferrari, but not a rusted hatchback either. Maybe not abandoning your dreams of travel, but also not ripping your partner away from everything familiar. It's about asking the real questions. What matters most to you? What matters most to them? And where's the overlap? Because in that overlap lies your shared life. The couples who last are the ones who treat compromises not as defeats, but as opportunities to grow closer. Every decision you make together is a thread in the fabric of your relationship. Pull too hard on your side, and the fabric tears. Weave together, and it becomes stronger. And trust me, if you think compromises are difficult, just wait until you face your first real fight. That's when the foundation you've built will truly be tested.
Every relationship has its breaking point. For some, it comes early. For others, it takes years to surface. But sooner or later, you will hit a storm you never saw coming. For me, it came during one of the hardest chapters of my life, my time in medical school. I had 2 failed subjects hanging over me like storm clouds, 2 debts, 2 massive weights on my shoulders. And if you've ever been through something similar, you know the pressure doesn't just sit quietly. It screams in your head every hour of every day, what if I fail? What if this is it? I was exhausted, burned out, and terrified. What I needed was support, someone to remind me that failure is not the end. But instead, I felt pressure from everywhere, from my parents, from my girlfriend, from everyone except one loyal friend who kept telling me, "You'll figure it out." And then the worst happened. I was dismissed, expelled. Just like that, the nightmare I had feared became reality. But the real blow didn't come from the university. It came from my girlfriend's family. Her mother looked at me and saw nothing but wasted potential, a failure, someone not worthy of her daughter. And suddenly, I was fighting for more than just my future. I was fighting for my relationship. It almost ended right there. Days of silence, cold shoulders, her ignoring me completely. I still remember New Year's Eve. While the world celebrated new beginnings, I was sitting at home with my parents, wondering if this was the end of everything. But then, something shifted. After weeks of silence, she came back. Not just back, but defiant, standing up to her mother, demanding that she be allowed to make her own choice. And she chose me. That fight nearly destroyed us, but in surviving it, we came out stronger than ever. Because sometimes the most painful battles reveal the depth of your bond. When you're stripped bare, no achievements, no trophies, no shiny future to offer, and they still choose you, that's when you know it's real. And here's the thing. You'll have your own version of this fight. It might not look the same as mine, but trust me, it's coming. What matters is how you handle it. Do you let it break you apart? Or do you find a way to rebuild stronger than before? And if you do survive it, there's one more step on the road ahead. Because love doesn't just happen between two people. It eventually has to win the approval of the world around you.
If you've made it this far, it means you've walked through fire together. You've been tested by distance, by conflict, by life itself, and you're still here. That alone is worth celebrating. But if you've survived those storms, then you're ready for the next step, taking your love to a higher level. Now, this part is different for everyone. Some couples don't feel the need for tradition. Others see it as an essential step. But for me, asking for her parents' blessing wasn't just a formality. It was a way of showing respect, not just to her family, but to her. You see, a relationship doesn't exist in a vacuum. When you commit to someone, you're not just joining your lives, you're intertwining your histories, your families, your roots. Ignoring that reality can create tension later. Embracing it can set a strong foundation. So here's what I did. I didn't overthink the ring. It wasn't about the price tag or whether it sparkled enough for Instagram. That's just noise. What mattered was the meaning, the act of saying, I choose you for life. So I bought the best ring I could afford, not the one that emptied my wallet. Then I went to her parents. Was I nervous? Of course. Asking for someone's blessing feels like stepping onto a stage where the outcome could change everything. But that's the beauty of it. That tension, that humility, it forces you to speak from the heart. I asked, they agreed. And with that simple word, the door to the next chapter opened. Here's the truth. Proposals don't need to be perfect. They don't need to be staged like a movie scene with hidden cameras and fireworks. What they need to be is honest. Honest to who you are as a couple. Honest to your story. Because when you strip it all down, the proposal isn't about the moment. It's about the lifetime that follows. The question isn't, will you marry me? It's, will you walk through every storm with me from this day forward? And when you hear yes, that's when everything shifts. That's when dreams of the future stop being someday and start becoming real plans. But there's one final milestone on this journey. The day when promises turn into vows. The wedding. And here we are, the finish line. Or at least what looks like one, the wedding. The day you've dreamed about, the day that seems like the grand finale of every love story. But let me tell you something most people forget. The wedding is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. When you stand there exchanging vows, it feels like magic.
It feels like every struggle, every heartbreak, every lonely night has led you to this one perfect moment. And in a way, that's true. But don't let the magic blind you, because the wedding itself is just a single day. What matters is what comes after. So how do you plan it? However you want. This is your day, not a performance for the world. If you want a grand celebration with music, lights, hundreds of guests, and photos that fill up an entire album, do it. If you'd rather save your money, keep it small and invest in something more practical, like a honeymoon, or even a home together. That's just as valid. Don't let anyone tell you there's a right way to get married. The only right way is the one that feels true to you as a couple. Here's the advice I'll give. Focus less on the show, more on the meaning. Because one day, the music will stop. The guests will leave, the photos will fade. But the life you build together, that's what remains. Marriage isn't a fairy tale where everything is perfect forever. It's real life. It's bills, responsibilities, compromises, and the occasional fight about who forgot to take out the trash. But it's also late-night conversations that make you laugh until you cry. It's holding each other when life falls apart. It's building something that lasts, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. So yes, celebrate your wedding. Make it a memory you'll never forget. But understand this, the wedding is one day, the marriage is a lifetime. And that's the real prize at the end of this journey. From loneliness, to first heartbreak, to learning lessons, to finding love, to building a future, you've walked the path. And now, you're not walking it alone anymore. That's the beauty of it. That's the destination. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of the next great chapter of your life.
If you've made it this far, you've just walked through the entire journey, from loneliness to failed attempts to building something real, to the challenges of compromise, and finally, to building a life together. So what does it all mean? What are the lessons you can take with you? First, loneliness is not the end. It's the beginning. The hardest nights, the feelings of being left out, the doubts that you'll never find someone, they're not proof of failure. They're the foundation on which your story begins. Second, every relationship that doesn't work out teaches you something. Long distance showed me the cost of missing physical presence. Shallow relationships taught me that validation is not love. Every ending, as painful as it was, gave me the tools I needed to build something stronger later. Third, real love doesn't come from chasing. It comes when you're living your own life, building your own stability, and then letting the right person add to that life. Love is an addition, not a replacement. Next, challenges don't destroy love unless you let them. Whether it's financial struggles, career setbacks, or family drama, every couple faces storms. What matters is whether you face them together or turn against each other. Compromise is not weakness. It's the proof that you're building something bigger than yourself. Then commitment is not about the ring or the wedding. It's about two people choosing every single day to keep walking forward together. The proposal, the wedding, those are symbols. The real marriage starts in the everyday choices to love, forgive, and grow. And finally, your journey won't look exactly like mine. It won't look like anyone else's, but the lessons will still apply. Patience, self-respect, communication, resilience, and faith that the right person is out there if you're willing to become the right person yourself. So if you're in the stage of loneliness, don't despair. If you're in the stage of compromise, don't give up. And if you're already at the stage of marriage, keep building, because love is not a destination, it's a lifelong practice. And that's what this guide has been about. The practice of growing from being alone to building a life worth sharing. At the end of the day, love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about building something real, step by step, with someone who chooses you as much as you choose them. That's the real journey, from loneliness to forever.